Is it visible to everyone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I can start now. So, basically, my title is Statistics in Infection Disease Epidemiology. Like, the topic is mainly covered from data to decisions. Like, we have lots of data. So, how can we implement and how can we take a decision about the policies or in real world data set, etc. So, first question is why data driven epidemiology? Why we do it in statistics? So, infectious disease processes are heterogeneous and noisy. Like different region have different diet pattern, different cultures. So according to this, there are so many diseases that based on this variation. So purely mechanistic models rely on strong assumption. Like in this model, we assume it's homogeneous, mixing, perfect reporting, fixed parameter. But in real situation, it does not happen actually. Generally, we taking the surveillance data reveal what actually happens and not what should happen. Like, depends on under-reporting. Like someone report in delays, so we can't take decision about any particular event or any certain disease. Public health decision must be made under uncertainty. So that implies data quantify uncertainty and the risk factor. So next one is the type of data in infectious disease study. Data in epidemiology observation basically on health event and exposures. So exposures means the effect which are that is the ingredient or effect that mainly depends on the public health. Like give an example, like if you have low immunity, you have higher risk of any disease. So the population, which population we are interested, like if we take the population our target group is children or adult or the older people. So we need to mention the which population we are targeting. Next, collected data over the. So we need to mention which region we are interested in, like the low middle income countries or the high HDI levels. So that is also important. And one of the main important factor is time. Because before 2020 or before that we do not have any idea about COVID-19. But after 2020 or 2021, we see the we saw the how it COVID-19 actually. So in the worldwide, we all know about it. So based on these, the type of data are I have divided into four categories like incidence versus prevalence, count data, rates versus proportion, time series data. So we define one by one. First, before that, we just measuring disease frequency. Why we measure disease occurrence? So the quantifies disease burden in the population, like how many people are affected, how many people are improved their from particular certain disease. Enables comparison across time, place and group, like which particular group are affected most or which place are low immunity or high immunity based on the data set. Informs resource allocation and public health planning. So based on this disease, we can plan like future plan, how to improve this disease, or how to making any policies, or we can help to the policy maker to improve the basically we want to improve the public health. So based on this, we just measure disease occurrence and distinguish between existing burden and ongoing transmission. So first definition is prevalence. Prevalence means the proportion of individuals currently infected at given time. It reflects both past infection and disease duration. Basically, the mathematical definition is prevalence equals to total population at time t that and divided by the number of existing cases at time t. So the number of existing cases, it's number of existing cases divided by total population. So this is an example. If 300 people have tuberculosis disease in the population is in 1 lakh, so the prevalence is it's easy to calculate. So 300 divided by 1 lakh, so it's 0.3%. Next measurement is incidence. Incidence is measure the new cases. Like we already know these like 1,000 or 300 or 500 people are affected. So in incidence is different from prevalence because it's a new cases. How many new cases are arise due for a particular time interval. So the definition of incidence is the population at risk divided by the number of new cases during the specified people. Sorry, this definition is actually reverse. The number of new cases divided by the population at risk. Okay. So let us give an example. If 120 new cases are arises among 1 lakh people, so the incidence is 120 per 1 lakh per year. Here the key insight is prevalence is not equal to incidence because disease with long duration can have high prevalence even when incidence is declining. So prevalence is the proportion like how many people are affected divided by total number of people, and incidence is the number of new cases divided by population at risk. Next one is count data. So count data is basically like we can count the number of events. So of course it is non-negative integer starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Here the number of new cases reported, maybe the number of cases reported in each day, or number of deaths people due to particular disease in a week, or number of hospitalized patients, like how many people came by this week for particular certain disease. So these are the common examples of the infectious disease. One of the most important example due to COVID-19 in a district like 120 COVID-19 cases, 50 lakhs hospitalization and 3 deaths were reported in 1 week. So this is one of the example of count data. What is the key point here? Count data measure how events occur, not how large the population is. So next next one is proportion. So proportion is a part of whole, or it can measure by numerator is included in the denominator. Does not involve the time in the case of proportion. This is the most important part of proportion. Let us give an example like 200 individuals out of 10,000 people. So the proportion is simple calculation. 200 divided by 10,000. But in the case of rate, measure how much events occur, including time, in the denominator. Numerator is not part of denominator. So the example is 200 new infection over 1 year in a population, like the population is 10,000. So the rate is measured is only the 200 new cases divided by 10,000 person per year. So this is the basic difference between proportion and rate. That the in the proportion we does not involve the time, but in case of rate, time is one of the most important factors. So here the key message is proportion describe how much and rates describe how fast. This is the key message here. Next one is one of the most important and time series data. In time series data, the basic concept is like how many people are infected. Like give an example, like how many people are infected due to malaria or due to dengue in 1 year. So if we collected the data like 2000 year, 2001, 2002, like over time, if we collect the data over time, then it's called time series data. We can also say from its name. So the definition is here: data collected sequentially over time, observation of time order. You can choose the time order like with 1 year gap, like 2000, data from 2000 or 2002 or 2004, like gap, or 5 year gap, like 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, etc. Or you can take each year data set like 2000, 2001. Each one is included in time series data. So here some examples are based on infectious disease, daily reported COVID-19 cases in a city, weekly dengue cases over 1 year, or monthly influenza deaths. So first the key point here, time series data capture how disease pattern evolve over time and require special care due to trends seasonally and reporting delays. So time series data basically capture the time. Here the most important factor is time. In previous cases, we find that in proportion there is no mention about the time. So next is what challenges actually we face to collect the data, or after reporting the data, or to make any decision about the based on data. Basically, role of uncertainty in public health. Like decisions are made under incomplete information. Sometimes in different situations we cannot take any decision. We measure, let's give an example, like we measure in a particular rare disease or in any rare cancer of a particular patient. If he or she does not follow the follow-up, so we cannot conclude what happens with him or her. So in this condition, it's incomplete information. We can't conclude it. Uncertainty affects risk communication. Like we measure one patient, what affect the effect of COVID-19, but certainly he was died of heart attack. So this is the uncertain effect. We can't assume this what happened with him. So we can't say that like COVID-19 how affect its progress due to death or due to mortality or not, because he was already died due to heart attack. So policy should consider ranges, not a single number. This is the important one of the important factor in role of uncertainty in public health, we can conclude like a single number. This is the result, like 1.1 or 1.2, because we can't take decision. So it's better if we provide a break or an interval. So these to this, like lower and upper interval. If we provide it, then we can take any decision after considering any target population. So this is real world data challenges. So under reporting of infections, reporting delays, right censoring, and reported cases when the cases are two infections are not equal. So based on this, under reporting of infections, like sometimes it is not possible to report exact number, like how many patients are affected or how many people are at risk. So in that cases, our decision is we can't predict the decision. Sometimes reportings are delays due to some uncircumstances reason or any like costing effect, anything. Right censoring means outcome not yet observed. Like which outcome can come, we cannot observe properly. Like maybe for any infected people, we some due to some circumstances, maybe the patient can survive up to 5 years. Maybe after 5 years he will still survive. So we can't conclude from this situation. Sometimes the cases and the two infections are not equal. Actually, the cases we cannot maybe enlisted due to some uncertain reason. So in that cases, we can't predict how many people are actually affected, how many people are survived, or how many people have mortality or any other situation. So in these cases, we sometimes introduce in statistics the regression models in epidemics. First, we try to simple linear prediction, like we consider two axes, x-axis and y-axis. We maybe there is some linear equation y equals to a plus bx. We know the value of a and b, or we can compute the value of a and b, and we just put x and it's just y. So maybe if many people are infected, then its mortality rate is high. So this is the linear regression. It's a simple regression. The relation between x and y are linear. So it's called linear regression. We can measure trends or counts or rates, etc. But in real world, the data is not always linear. So what should we do? So it's maybe quadratic or any other polynomial polynomial regression. So some cases are there here where we can measure the probability of infection, that is based on the binary outcomes like 0, 1, effect or effect not affected, death or not death. So based exposed or non-exposed. So based on this, we introduce logistic regression. And based on this, we have adjusted some co-founders. Co-founders are like based on like the example is age or gender or etc. And we also widely use in surveillance data to use this logistic or linear regression or etc. So the challenge is sometimes the data is not fitted well, or we don't know is it linear pattern or any quadratic pattern or what. So before fitting in the model, we always plot the data. We need to plot the data before the model. Okay. So first it is we that's why we define explanatory data analysis. Explanatory data analysis means explanatory data analysis is the process of examining and summarizing data using simple graphs like which is visible clearly, like this data is high, this data is low, and summary measure before applying any statistical model. So before fitting any model, just visualization. Anyone can understand this graph, like this data is high or rate is high or rate is low or the rate is first high then low. So we can easily interpret it from the visualization of any pattern of graph. So purpose of explanatory data analysis is understand the structure of data, like what data or what factor are included in the data, what the structure actually of the data, detect pattern, trends or outliers. So pattern trends means the disease is gradually increases or gradually decreases. Outliers, maybe there is some outliers in the data set that is not included in the data. If this is very high value, so we called it outlier in the language of statistics. So there is some formula, of course, of the outlier. So we need to rectify the outlier. These are outliers and these are included in the data. Based on there is some criteria, median or maximization. Next one is the purpose of explanatory data analysis is identify the data problem or if there is any abnormalities. Like the data consists like all the important parameters or co-counters or anything else. So here the key message is always explore and visualize the data before fitting the model. So this is the fundamental of explanatory data analysis. Never fit a model before plotting the data, and explanatory data analysis reveal the structure, bias or an anomalies. Next one is interpreting uncertainty. So if we consider any the base case from the data, like in math we call it reproduction number or anything we consider R0 denoted by if we take any point like 1.4 or 1.6 or whatever the value is, it's better to provide in point estimation. Actually in point estimation what happened, we just guess. Estimate means we guess what the parameter is. So we need to guess what the parameter is based on some properties like unbiasedness, consistency, etc. This is the basic property of statistics under the point estimation. So based on these properties, we can choose the value like this is the best estimator or not. Sometimes we can't estimate in particular value, or we divided the estimation in two parts. One is point estimation and one is confidence interval. So point estimation is based on some properties I have already mentioned, and in confidence interval actually we measure the range of the possible values. Like this parameter is lies or like the exact value is 1.4, but we can say we can calculate the exact value. In that case, we consider the confidence interval like the value is lies between 1.1 to 1.6 or 1.5, whatever the value, in the range or in the interval. So we of course there is some error, so we need to consider what happens like we mentioned in statistics we consider two types of interval based on like 95% and 99%. In 95% confidence interval the error is actually 0.05. Like if there is 0.5% fault, okay, we consider it. And in 99% if we consider similarly from like 1%. If there is 1% fault, then okay, we can our assumption is correct. So based on this, there is some measurement error like exposure may be misclassified. Like from contact history, like from based on this, maybe we take the wrong exposure. In that case, we can't conclude the actual situation. Outcome may be mismeasured. Maybe we can't able to catch the what is the undetected infection leads to biased estimate. Maybe we know the person. Maybe it can happen. You know the person very he or she may be very well known. So we know the person. In that cases, or we know the disease. So we can in that case maybe it's a bias estimate. Maybe this person has another disease, but we cannot progress that disease. We can't detect from the copy. So the last one is confounding. Confounding is one of the main in epidemiology. A third factor that affect both the exposure also the outcome, and it can create the false or any maybe there is no relation between this and this. Maybe there is no relation between the exposure and the anything what we measure the disease. Maybe confounding make a relation. It's a very really false. Example, A co-found the link between exposure and disease severity. So we can conclude from it. So this is one of the most important factor, but it can create any false association. So what's the key message here? So here the key message is public health decision should really the uncertainty ranges, not single numbers. So since there is lots of error due to lots of reasons, so we can't conclude it's better not conclude with particular any point. It's better to conclude within a range, like this range to this range. There is some lower, there is some upper. So lower range is maybe A and upper range is maybe B. So if the mean value is X, so it's between A less than equals to X less than equals to B. So it's between A and B. So we called it A as an lower limit and B as upper limit, or lower interval and upper interval. So next is what happens in explanatory data analysis.
So,
Sometimes
Dr. Ghosh,
decisions
can you
are
hear?
often
Dr. Ghosh, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Just let me talk to the participant a minute. So, we have to make this as an interactive session. It's very, very important. What you might be thinking is very easy. It is not. How many of you have done rates and proportions? Do you know what is the challenge in estimating rates and proportions? in reality, what is known to us? What is known to us in reality? Many times when we do the data collection process, we get proportions. We don't get rates, or vice versa. Sometimes we get rates also, but we have to convert it into the other way, other things. And it is not easy. How do you convert from proportions to rate? How do you convert from proportion to rate or vice versa? Note one thing, proportions are having no time units, where rates has a time units. And this type of things happens all the modeling work. How do you convert proportions to rate? Anyone? It's a very simple question, no?
Yeah, time, like in proportion, it is a part of a whole. There is no dimension rate. Proportion is dimension rate. And when we talk rate, then it is time inverse.
Okay, so how do you convert it?
So time inverse, we will take time, some time span, 1 day or weekly or monthly.
The proportion is given over a period of time, then we can calculate.
Usually, it should be a cross-sectional study, right? A cross-sectional study, there is no time. Today, I am doing a study and I am counting the number of people of certain type divided by total population. That's a proportion at this time. Today. So it's a cross-sectional. Of course, you can take over duration, you can calculate the proportion over last 1 year, which is also a cross-sectional in some sense, by the way. But it is typically one instant of time you calculate the count of your interest divided by total count. That's your proportion. And how do you calculate the rate? It has over past 1 month, past 1 week, past this thing, and you use that by averaging your over many time durations. You're averaging over many time durations. You're calculating average over this time period, then over this time period, then over this time, and taking an average. That is an average rate for you. So my question comes very clearly. One is cross-sectional proportion. One is over time slots, averaged over many time slots. How do you convert proportions to rate? And this is, I'll tell you an example. For example, the models that we discuss, SIR type model, what is the parameters? But is it a rate or is it a proportion?
It's a rate.
It's a rate. Where do you use proportions?